still hearing a little buzz, but that's it.
That was, it came on my phone.
Oh, that was on yours. Okay, kids. Howdy, Emmy. We're here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott.
Hello, Scott. Emmy said hello.
I don't care about Emmy. Emmy's mean, and I hate her, and she spit gum in my hair. And then I cried, and then she called me a sissy, and I'm mad, and I'm not happy.
Emmy, why did you put gum in Scotty's hair? Look what you did to him. He's traumatized for life. Okay. Well, she's giving us the video looks good, the audio is good, and so on and so forth. So, little problems getting it to fire up for some reason tonight. I don't know if it's because of the cold and the dampness or whatever. Hi, Jack.
Hello, Jack.
I was over at a gun show today.
Do tell, sir.
I am. I'm going to tell. I'm going to be a tattletale. I cannot resist being a tattletale. I got great rewards for being a tattletale. Anyway, I was over at the gun show at Conneaut Lake Sportsman's Club, and pretty well attended. A lot more attendance there this year than there was in the springtime, or not spring, yeah, last fall. They had 420 or 475 people through there yesterday. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's maybe not very many. Well, when you're talking about a 60 table show, that's quite a few people. They had about 475 yesterday, and I would imagine they had about 125 today. So that would be about 600 people. And my sales were good enough that I was able to put $200 more towards my property tax. So I now have $600 towards my property tax. And next week I will be at my show out at Chapmanville. It's the one I'm putting on at the Chapmanville Fire Hall, Route 27, Chapmanville, PA, which has a Titusville address, but still it's Chapmanville, PA. It's like 7 miles from Titusville and 20 miles from Meadville. So I'm putting that one on, and I'm hoping the weather is supposed to be cooperative, wet and damp and cold. Okay, I'm hoping that I get 500-600 people to come through that show, because I work with another guy and we get to split the gate 50-50. So autoplay, what the hell's autoplay? What's that? Just a minute, folks. I gotta bring this up and see what it's talking about. Oh, that's what that is. Remove disk. I'm sorry, I have a disc in here. There. That make you feel better? I guess so. So, anyway, as it stands right now with the 600, I need about $2,200 more.
Jesus.
And that's after I've already paid $500. Okay, and that's after the state had already sent $250 under the Homestead Act. Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah. So anyway, those of you who are out there that live nearby, if you can think about it in the spare the time or wherewithal, come on down, come on out and visit. And okay, Emmy, I will put that out. Emmy wants my address, so if anyone wants to contribute, I will. Here it comes. Are you ready? You got your paper and pencil? Here it goes. It's Daryl Civic, that's SIVIK, 9931 Williamson Road, Meadville, PA. Occupied code number, or occupied zone 16335, which is the zip code for most people. But if you live down in Virginia, it might become an occupied zone soon. Again, it's Darrell Civic, 9931 Williamson Road, Meadville, Pennsylvania, 16335. And any contributions to help defray that cost helps me to keep this going for longer and longer. And believe it or not, it cost me without ink for my printer and paper. It cost me about $80 for electricity for a month for here, and that's without using heat.
Golly.
Yeah, okay, $80 for the electricity is what I pay out. So if I didn't have to pay that out, I'd have almost $800 or $900 to pay on my taxes. So, but I'm doing this because it needs to be done. So if you can help carry the burden, I appreciate all donations that you can make, and in that. Got your preps in case Jack's asking, in case this virus goes really wild. Well, I've had my preps ready since Y2K. I keep moving them around from place to place, and it's time to get ready to move them again, and get out of the Dodge, get away from these people. But speaking of that, most people, well, I'll back it up here. Speaking of this virus, I've been watching the mainstream news media. Now, I haven't seen it today. I didn't see it yesterday, but this past week when I was watching it, they kept mentioning the name of that town. Wuhan?
Something like that.
Whoever got hung.
Well hung.
Well hung. No, it didn't say well hung. They have not mentioned that Wuhan is the biological warfare center for the Chinese military. Okay. Okay.
How peculiar.
Yeah. I have not heard that other than when I saw it on a couple of different things on the website here. So I've been watching to see if any of them would mention it. So if I am wrong on that, anybody that was out there, I'd like to know. But I sure would like to have verification of that, because I don't want to spread out rumors and have people lose my credibility among my patriots out there. But anyway,
Just to add to that, a fresh diagnosis of the deadly coronavirus has been confirmed in Southern California.
Southern Californicators. Now, I'm going to really stick my nose in where it don't belong here, and tell these people that as soon as that virus appeared in China, that all foreign flights into this country should have been stopped. Okay?
Quarantine measures should have been.
That's right. Should have been put up immediately, and nobody can come into this country that's been in China until after the incubation period has come and gone for them. And if they are coming into this country, then they all should be put in. I hate to use in a camp.
Quarantine center.
Yep, quarantine center until the incubation period is gone through. And that's what we used to do with immigrants years ago. Bring them in. Everybody went into a quarantine center to make sure nobody was sick. It was called Ellis Island and some other places. Okay. And
one of the problems that I read about, was it yesterday, that I guess that virus was like tearing up wherever it was, like the area, but the Chinese government kept a lid on it for like
Well,
weeks.
Yeah, they wouldn't want people to know that they're weaponized virus. Here's something that came over from Bruce Wayne. I'm glad you interjected that, because it does bring a question. Because I have some other related stuff. Headline on ZeroHedge.com: Did China steal the coronavirus virus from Canada and weaponize it? Mysterious shipment caught smuggling coronavirus from the virus from China traced to Chinese agents working at a CA lab. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because prior to World War II, our government was experimenting with the spread of flu by mosquitoes. They had flu-infected mosquitoes shipped to Canada and then released so they could trace the spread of the flu, to see how long it would take to travel a certain distance and how many people would get it. And so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that that virus could have been stolen from Canada and then gone to China and then weaponized. But I can tell you right now, I can almost guarantee you that if they've weaponized it, they have a cure for it. The Chinese have a cure for it. Because they're not going to release something that's going to kill them too, unless they have a vaccine for it that will... now, China can stand to lose 500 million people, 600 million people, 700 million people, okay, because of the overcrowding of the country. But the hierarchy is not going to allow something to go through that they don't have a cure for, so that the hierarchy can stay in power and stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just analogical thinking. I know somebody said last week I had my critical thinking cap on, but you have to stop and wonder about this. And then we have, oh God, there was an island off the coast in which the U.S. government was doing experiments, genetic experiments, if I'm not mistaken.
Talking about Plum Island?
Yeah, that's it, Plum Island, where they were, crossbreeding things and some pretty grotesque creatures washed up on the beaches along the United States here. In that.
Oh yeah, you see that kind of stuff pop up all the time.
Yeah. So, where do these things come from? Well, they weren't deposited here by the aliens that come to visit us from time to time. These are lab rats that have gone wrong. Let's put it that way. And so you can't put past it. And then the other thing that's going on here, I heard this on Alex Jones, and I'm only repeating it because I haven't had a chance to confirm it, but gives him an excuse to create a pandemic to require everybody to have an inoculation and have a Part A, Part B virus put in you, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
So that when something else comes along, you've got to take this other vaccine and the two interact, and let's put it this way. You go to bed one night and you don't wake up. All right. I wanted to tell you something, Scott. Speaking of this, to how things work. They've had me on 3 insulins, 3 different types of insulins for my diabetes. Okay? Well, here, starting about a month ago, I started getting these terrible aches right around the thumb and the palm of my hand here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rub them and it would go away, but then it would appear somewhere else, okay, in the fingers. And so I had been playing with my medications and phasing some of them out to see if I can find the one that's causing it, because I figured it was a side effect.
Yeah.
Well, when I took one and when I phased out one, nothing happened. Still had the same problem, so I put it back in. Well, the last thing that I was messing with is insulin. So I dug out the instructions on the
Which
3 insulins that I got.
what type of insulin though? Do you
Well,
recall?
it's one that's supposed to be long-lasting. They have 2 of them that's long-lasting. One I take in the morning, one I take in the afternoon or in the evening before going to bed. But then I take 2 of the 70/30
Yeah.
during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got tired of this pain in my hands because it would start every night 30 to 45 minutes after I took my insulin shot. Okay, so I stopped taking the night one. That night, no pain. I have not taken it since then, and I have no pain. I did some reading of the side effects. This one that I quit says it is not to be used with as a treatment with other.
Brilliant.
Yeah, okay. So I'm getting the stuff from the VA too, by the way. So
Yeah.
I've eliminated that one. I don't care if it kills me. If I don't have the pain, I'm feeling much better. And that. So
One of the things that I've picked up over the years, I work in long-term care. I'm a nurse at a nursing facility. I think I've mentioned that before. Our medical director, I won't drop any names, but I like him real well, and that's a problem. There's a problem with a lot of the doctors out there. So many of the doctors will prescribe for, a person, whereas our medical director, he has been working with the aged population long enough, he sees, okay, if I give them this drug with this drug with this drug, they're not going to get as much. So oftentimes when somebody comes in from home care or another doctor, he just starts slashing and burning meds. Nope, 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 nope. Because the side effects no longer outweigh the benefits.
and they have inter
interact.
drug action.
And some people are on like God knows how many stupid vitamins when in all reality a multivitamin and maybe a little bit of vitamin C would be just as good. So always question your doctor. Always make sure that as you get older your body changes, and and a lot of these doctors don't understand that.
When I went into the foot doctor and I had those large blisters on my foot,
Yes, sir.
my one
I
foot.
recall.
Okay, you recall. When I went in and I saw the podiatrist, he was prescribing me an antibiotic to keep them from getting infected because of my being diabetic. And so the one he was going to prescribe, he looked it up and a warning come up. Does not work well with the other medicines that I'm taking. So he
I think
changed
they call them
another.
black box warnings.
Yeah. So he changed the type of medication, and he ran that in there, and it was okay. So I don't know who, what, or when at the diabetic clinic. I will be seeing them, I think, next Wednesday, and they're going to be shocked to find out that I quit on my own one of those insulins. They tell you not to do that, but I'm telling you what, this was ungodly pain, and it lasts for an hour, hour and a half. And I've suffered with pain for 40-some years. I'm tired of it. Okay? And I mean, it itched, it burned, and then ached like crazy, and nothing would make it go away. I just had to wait until the insulin was digested or whatever. But the part that really gets me is I was on one called Tajeo. My family physician had put me on it, and I only took it once a day. And I forget whether it was at night or in the morning, but I took it once a day, and it was doing the job. It was keeping my sugar numbers down, okay? But the VA doesn't recognize it. It's not formulated, as they call it. And they got me on all this other shit. And this other shit basically has been killing me. I mean, I don't have much life left in me or time left on this planet anyway, let alone have my medicine cut it even shorter. And something else that I've noticed is some of the, since I've stopped taking that, some of the nerve neuropathy in my feet has started to ease up again.
You recall what you were taking, your evening dose that you stopped taking? Was it Levemir?
No, it was started with a V, I think. Anyway, it's in a brown tube.
Yeah. One of those injector pens?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Okay. The other one's in a bit. The other one I take once a day is in the morning. It's a baby blue. Then the other one is dark blue. Okay. So, and the other one was beige. Well, the beige one's the one I quit. And so, anyway, that's been the scoop there. Now what I want to do, before we get too far, I know you haven't had a chance to look at some of these. So while I'm making some speculations on this bullshit, my observations of this impeachment shit, and these are my observation and opinion only. And if you people want to say I'm full of crap, well, I shit twice today, so I ain't. But my observation is the Democrats have delayed and delayed and delayed when they were hearing it in the House for different documents to be produced. And all those delays give people time to sit down and write up anything and post-date it or predate it. You follow what I'm saying? So that they can then lie on a piece of paper and then hand it to Congress, and Congress would take, oh my God, look at this. We have another proof that he didn't do anything. Anyway, gives them time to create innuendo or supposedly wrongdoing, whatever. Secondly, the most important thing is, actually it's the most important thing, is the fact that they have not produced the whistleblower. Okay? Now, under the
You don't even
Constitution...
hear about the whistleblower
No,
anymore.
not anymore. But under the Constitution, the accused has a right to confront the whistleblower, or has the right to face the accuser. Okay? And by them not doing that, they're denying Trump's constitutional rights. Even if he is president, he still has the same basic constitutional rights as you, me, and the other guy. Okay? And by not producing it, they're denying him that right. So anything is all hearsay. If they don't have the whistleblower there to testify, everything then is hearsay, which is not admissible in any standard court. Hearsay evidence is not admissible.
I hear you saying that.
And that, you hear me?
See where I'm headed with that?
You hear me saying that? You heard it here first, folks. I said it. But anyway, Emmy, welcome to Drug Talk with Daryl, brought to you by Johnson & Johnson. That Emmy's on the ball. I'd like to meet her. I really would. I'd like to meet her. She seems like a fun lady. And that, so, anyhow.
Talking about the impeachment, I read something interesting on Braveheart news site today. It's funny that, you know, he's a Harvard law professor, professor emeritus from Harvard, Alan Dershowitz.
Yes, I got a couple things from him.
He was the media darling until he started, like, kind of, I wouldn't say he was defending Trump, but he was saying a lot of what you're saying is kind of bullshit. Mm-hmm. And now you hear stuff where Adam Schiff is saying, well, he's not a reliable source.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, look,
I got something to say about shit. I mean, Schiff.
I'm just going to read this little ditty. It's a short story. Harvard law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz said on this week's broadcast of Fox News Sunday that he felt the House manager's case fell short of the standard needed to convict President Donald Trump in the Senate impeachment trial. Dershowitz said, Even if the factual allegations are true, which are highly disputed, in which the defense team will show contrary evidence, but even if true, they did not allege impeachable offenses, so there can't be a constitutionally authorized impeachment. He added, the conduct has to be criminal in nature. It can't be abuse of power. It can't be obstruction of Congress. Those are precisely the arguments that the framers rejected. So, I don't know much about law and lawyering and such, but I mean, I think I would listen to him if he was giving me legal advice.
Yeah.
He probably knows a little more about the lawyer than what I learned on Law and Order watching it when I was a younger man.
Yeah. Or watching Judge Judy today.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's my whole take on this is where I was leading to.
Oh, yeah.
Is that they want to get rid of Trump. Okay, they want to get rid of him one way or another. But if they can't get rid of him, they want to cut the presidential powers. In other words, they want to usurp the constitutional powers that he has away from him, in which case, once the president has been set, it would be any future president, which would then make any future president nothing more than a figurehead to make the American people feel good that they voted for the president of the United States, while the communists in Washington and the Congress set up their little communist state, or their large communist state. Okay, and then the next thing you know, you have block commissars walking around spying on everybody, and if he don't like you, all he has to do is go to his boss, his overseer, and say, hey, I think this guy, and it doesn't have to be proof of anything, it's just I think. Then you can be hauled off to the gulags or concentration camps or wherever they decide to send you.
It won't even be I think in the future. It'll be I feel.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, feelings are more important than minds.
Yeah, they won't think, they'll feel, because maybe he's got a crush on your wife. Okay.
Maybe he's got a shinier car than you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't feel that's right.
But anyway, under the Constitution, the President of the United States has the authority to set foreign policy. Okay? He has the authority to set foreign policy. He has the authority to negotiate treaties. The passage of the treaties is left up to Congress. He also has the authority to pick and fire who he chooses working for his government. So if he wanted to fire the ambassador to the Ukraine, that was within his realm. And I know why he fired her.
And why is that, sir?
Well, we got to back up to when the abomination was president and Biden was the vice president. They put pressure on Ukraine to stop the investigation of Biden's son, okay, and wanted the prosecutor at the time, the Ukrainian prosecutor, fired at the time, okay. So, I don't think I have anything on that, but I may have. But anyway, not today, but something before, some weeks back. But anyway, if that's the case, all Trump was doing was basically hinting that maybe they ought to reopen the investigation that had been stopped. And by the way, in order to get the Ukraine to stop, they threatened to shut off the aid money for them to fight against the Russians. So, vis-a-vis, if there was any collusion, treason, or wrongdoing done, it was done under the abominations. And of course, we know where his true colors have finally come out. And so anyway, this is the way I'm looking at it. If they can't impeach him, they can't kick him out of office, we can't discredit him, we will neuter him. We will take away his powers. And I think that's their ultimate goal, is to take away their powers. Plus the fact, where does 432 congressmen have the right to tell 62 million people that your vote don't count? And somebody asked, do you think this impeachment's going to help Trump get elected? Yeah, I do. I think it's going to help him a lot. I think it's going to help him more than the Democrats think of. And specifically speaking of Democrats, I saw just before the show 2 Democrats have changed their thinking on the impeachment of Trump. After hearing what several people have said about the American population and stuff, they've changed their opinion. And one of the things that I heard was Schiff, that shithead from California, made the statement back here several months ago that the American people are not smart enough to have the responsibility to elect a president. Okay? In other words, all you people out there listening, you ain't smart enough. You just too damn dumb. We have to do it for you. You can't do it for yourself. We got to do it. And there was something else that he had said, and now it slipped my mind. But anyway,
there's been lots of posts on like Facebook and whatnot where Nancy Pelosi is said to have said similar such things.
yeah.
You know, and sometimes it pops up that it wasn't actually, it was either taken out of context or not actually said. It was like a false post. So do keep in mind what you see and read. Do your due diligence.
I saw it on Facebook, so it's got to be true.
I saw it on the goddamn internet machine.
Yeah, so it's got to be true.
Gots to be.
But anyway, that's my red take on this, and my red take. That's my take on this, and I will venture to say that the victory is going to be bigger than what the Democrats think. And once the vote is all over and the smoke clears and Trump comes out as president-elect again, with the $3 million hit contract that's been put on his head from Iran, I look for somebody to try and collect that, and they will probably get some help from the deep state.
Yeah, I dare say something drastic may be afoot.
So just if it ain't gonna be this virus that's gonna kill us, it's gonna be the attempted coup of Trump. And basically that's it. Now I need to rest my voice a little bit. Let Scotty talk.
All right. Last week, a lot of our chatting was about this upcoming Virginia gun rally and how all of us horrible gun owners are nothing but white nationalists and neo-Nazis and yada, yada, yada. And it amuses me to no end how butthurt the left is that nothing bad happened. They thought for sure this was going to start a civil war. There was going to be guns fighting in the streets. Didn't happen. So here is a story from Newsmax titled "Huge Virginia Gun Rally That Raised Alarm Ends Peacefully." Thousands of gun rights activists from around the country rallied peacefully at the Virginia Capitol on Monday, protesting plans by the state's Democratic leadership to pass gun control legislation that have become a key flashpoint in the national debate over gun violence. The size of the crowd and expected participation of white supremacists and fringe militia groups raised fears that the state could see a repeat of the violence that exploded in 2017 in Charlottesville. But the rally concluded uneventfully around noon, and the mood was largely festive, with rally-goers chanting USA and waving signs denouncing Democratic Governor Ralph Northam. Many protesters chose not to enter the designated rally zone, where Northam had instituted a temporary weapons ban, and instead packed the surrounding streets, many dressed in tactical gear and camouflage and carrying military-style rifles as they cheered on the speakers. "I love this. This is like the Super Bowl for the Second Amendment right here," said P.J. Hudson, a truck driver from Richmond who carried an AR-15 rifle just outside Capitol Square. He was one of the few African-American rallygoers in the crowd that was overwhelmingly white and male, and frequently was stopped and asked to pose for pictures wearing his Black Guns Matter sweatshirt. We got to get one of those. Authorities said that as of 1:40 p.m., there had been no reports of arrests or injuries. The Richmond protesters came out in the thousands despite the frigid temperature to send a message to legislators, they said. The government doesn't run us, we run the government, said Kem Rajik, a 20-year-old private security officer from Northern Virginia who brought a white flag with a picture of a rifle captioned, "Come and take it." Northam was a particular focus of the protesters' wrath. One poster showed his face superimposed on Adolf Hitler's body. As a side note, I hate when they do that. That's overused.
But Adolf Hitler,
Using the Hitler stuff to, I mean, they did it with George Bush, and then the right did it against Obama, and then the left has done it with Trump. Let that die. Let it go away, please. All right. But Democratic lawmakers said the rally wasn't going to impact their plans to pass gun control measures, including universal background checks and a one-handgun purchase a month limit. I was prepared to see a whole lot more people show up than actually did, and I think it's an indication that a lot of this rhetoric is bluster, quite frankly, said Dell. Chris Hurst, a gun control advocate whose TV journalist's girlfriend was killed in an on-air shooting in 2015. Some of the protesters waved flags with messages of support for President Donald Trump. Trump in turn tweeted support for their goals. The Democrat Party in the great Commonwealth of Virginia are working hard to take away your Second Amendment rights, he tweeted. This is just the beginning. Don't let it happen. Vote Republican in 2020. The Virginia State Police, the Virginia Capitol Police, and the Richmond Police had a heavy presence, with officers deploying on rooftops, others patrolling in cars and on bicycles. Authorities were looking to avoid a repeat of the violence that erupted in Charlottesville during one of the largest gatherings of white supremacists and other far-right groups in a decade. Attendees brawled with counter-protesters, and an avowed white supremacist drove his car into a crowd, killing a woman and injuring dozens more. Law enforcement officials faced scathing criticism for what both the white supremacist groups and anti-racism protesters said with a passive response. In contrast to Charlottesville, there was little sign of counter-protesters challenging the gun rights activists. Police limited access to Capitol Square to only one entrance, and a long line formed to get into the rally zone. Gun rights advocates also filled the hallways of the building that houses lawmakers' offices. One couple, Jared and Marie March, traveled from Floyd County over 3 hours west of Richmond to meet with lawmakers. Guns are a way of life where we live, said Marie March, who was concerned about a proposed red flag law, which she said would allow citizens to be stripped of their guns due to subjective criteria. A proposal to establish universal background checks amounted to more Big Brother, she said. We just feel like we need to push government back into their rightful spot. Monday's rally was organized by an influential grassroots gun rights group, the Virginia Citizens Defense League. The group holds a yearly rally at the Capitol, typically a low-key event with a few hundred gun enthusiasts, listening to speeches from a handful of ambitious Republican lawmakers. But this year, many more attended. Second Amendment groups have identified the state as a rallying point for the fight against what they see as a national erosion of gun rights. The pushback against proposed new gun restrictions began immediately after Democrats won majorities in both the state Senate and House of Delegates in November, with much of the opposition focused on a proposed assault weapons ban. More than 100 localities have since passed measures declaring support for the Second Amendment. Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America, among the speakers, said voters need to replace the Democrats in control of the government in Virginia. We need to throw the bums out. We need to clean house in the next election, he said. One more page, bear with me. Jesse Lambert was dressed in a mix of colonial-era Minutemen garb and cargo pants with a Colt rifle strapped across his back. The fog police would be going crazy at a reenactment, wouldn't they? Right. He said he traveled from Louisiana to show opposition to the gun control bills. He said Democrats' efforts would unfairly punish law-abiding gun owners, particularly those who own AR-style rifles. These are your average common people carrying firearms that are in common use, he said. The rally coincided with the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which is typically a chance for everyday citizens to use a day off work to lobby their legislators. However, the threat of violence largely kept other groups away from the Capitol, including gun control groups that hold an annual vigil for victims of gun violence. When that event was canceled, students from March for Our Lives, the movement launched after 17 were killed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida in 2018, decided they had to do something. A group of about 15 college students and one high schooler slept overnight in the offices of two Democratic lawmakers to ensure they could make it into the Capitol area safely. The lawmakers who hosted them, Hurst and Dell, Dan Helmer, who's sponsoring a bill would block the National Rifle Association from operating an indoor gun range at its headquarters, camped out as well. The students plan to spend the day lobbying. Michael McCabe, a 17-year-old high school senior from Northern Virginia, said he started lobbying at the General Assembly after the Sandy Hook mass shooting when he was 11 years old. Our main goal is to engage with gun extremists today, McCabe said. We are really here to present the legislature to make our voices heard. That whole last page was kind of confusing, and I apologize.
Yeah. Our subjects tonight apparently have YouTube censoring a lot of the chat.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Because I've had several flashes where the comment by the kids in the chat room has been withheld for review.
Oh boy.
Okay, kids, so I don't know what you're saying. Sounds perfectly good to me, but they don't want you to do it. So that's why some of them are being blanked out. That's why our number goes from like 11 or 12 watching down to 9. And that last week, that's same things was happening there. I had some thoughts on that, and I see, according to kids in the chat room, the people in Virginia are going to have another rally the day that law is supposed to go into effect. It's in June or July, I think they said. So this is not over. It is not over by a long shot. And it would be nice if the people remember this when it comes to the primary election coming up here. Well, I guess some places you can already start voting, but I think it's stupid. But anyway, if it's a Democrat, especially if he's an incumbent Democrat, you vote the son of a bitch out. Okay, if you're a Democrat and you're going into the polls and you're just satisfied with what these bastards have been doing in your name, then don't vote for them. If you need to vote for somebody that's Democrat, write your own name in, because you know how you feel about this. And unfortunately, there are many issues facing this country. But it boils down to there's one issue, one main issue, and one main issue only that's the priority, and that is your Second Amendment rights. Without that, you will have no other rights. Okay? I'll repeat that. Without the Second Amendment, you will have no other rights. So vote these bastards out by the wholesale. Don't allow them to get reelected or nominated to get reelected. And if they should manage to do that, then in November, when the general election comes around, don't vote for them, vote for a Republican. Or again, like I said, if you cannot in good conscience vote for them and you don't want to vote Republican, vote your own name in there. And so anything to screw up the process in getting these people in there. You follow what I'm saying?
No, I don't, Mullen. I was looking at dirty pictures on my internet machine.
Oh my gosh, you're liable to get this station banned for doing that. So, anyhow, I have a commentary from David Limbaugh. Okay? And this is off of WorldNet Daily. Oh, there's the other one that I want to do before the end of the half-hour show. You see that one?
Yeah.
Democrats disgraceful Harry. Yeah, try again. Democrats disgraceful Harry Hail Mary pass. David Limbaugh. I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of Representative Adam Schiff and the Democrats horde portraying every charge against President Donald Trump as Trump's effort to interfere with this or that election. In his opening statement at the Senate impeachment trial, lead House impeachment manager Schiff pulled up with false indignation. Did it again. President Trump made an attempt to use the powers of the presidency to cheat in an election, said Schiff, and he must be removed from office. He's claiming that in 2020 election, which won't happen until November, will be illegitimate because of Trump's dastardly telephone call with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky. Oh, okay. He claimed the president's misconduct cannot be decided at the ballot box, for we cannot be assured that the vote will be fairly won. He said, "Come on, how dim does he think the viewing public is?" That's what I'm trying to say. These people have no respect. They have no respect for anybody. They think we're all dummies compared to them.
Because they're insulated by yes men and women.
Well, they're surrounded by that, but they have an inflated ego that their head's going to burst. You know, if Trump don't get impeached, our head's going to burst. We're going to give you a piece of our mind all over the place. But here's a 45. Let that help you. And that's so. The only thing illegitimate in Schiff's argument, and as an experienced former prosecutor, he knows it. Even viewing Trump's actions in the most negative light, nothing happened beyond the conversation. Neither the conversation nor anything that resulted from it could hurt the eventual Democratic nominee's chance of winning. The same cannot be said, however, about this endless witch hunt against President Trump. The same cannot be said about the vicious lies Schiff and his company have leveled against Trump. And most everybody or everything they've done is aimed at interfering with the 2016 and 2020 elections, if I may borrow the term. I got a comment. I know we should let Adolf Hitler die, okay? But Adolf Hitler said, if you tell a lie long enough and often enough, people will perceive it as the truth.
Okay. He was the master of propaganda, that's for sure.
They used to claim Trump just tried to interfere with the 2020 elections, which was dubious enough, given that they can't prove Trump's motive was to sabotage Joe Biden. As I've said further, it is more likely that Trump was trying to uncover Democratic interference with his successful 2016 bid. And we know that because Hillary Bob Clinton was the one that got the Russians involved. And so was the abomination. But now they're saying Trump actually succeeded in tainting the upcoming election. Could someone please walk us through the logic? I'm serious. How could Trump possibly affect the outcome of the 2020 election when nothing came from it? How could it undermine our assurance that the vote will be fairly won? The irony is palpable, just as Democrats, not Trump, have attempted to interfere with both elections. The Democrats' unwarranted impeachment process could undermine or torpedo the 2020 elections if Schiff gets his way and Trump is railroaded out of office. At least we know that's not going to happen again. So does Schiff, which means the only reason he and his team are pursuing this sham is to publicly shame Trump and hinder his re-election bid. Their scheme to reverse the 2016 elections have gone down in flames. Schiff also claims that Trump believes he's above the law and engaged in one of the most blatant efforts to cover-up in history. A cover-up Trump knew when he made the call that other people were aware he was making when he was making it. It didn't even try to hide it in the beginning, and why would he? The transcript shows he didn't believe he was doing anything wrong, and he repeatedly called for an investigation into Democrats who have been trying to oust him and cripple his presidency. Just as it was bad faith for Democrats to accuse Trump of obstruction, the investigation into alleged collusion with Russia, because there was demonstrably no such collusion, and thus no reason to obstruct. It is bad faith for them to accuse him of obstructing the investigation because there's nothing for him to obstruct. He sucked the oxygen right out of them when he released a transcript saying they never banked on him. So in other words, when he released the transcripts, it had the information. They weren't waiting for it because it was counter to the lies that the whistleblower wrote. It is also preposterous to claim he committed an impeachable offense merely by invoking his privilege and other rights, unless you define obstruction of Congress as refusing to roll over and play dead for the quite honorable Schiff. The House Democrats didn't first ask the courts to compel witnesses to testify, but instead jumped straight to declaring Trump's blocking their testimony an impeachable offense. So much for the separation of powers. If I were president, I wouldn't cooperate with these guys at all, said Senator Lindsey Graham. It is rich that Schiff, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, accuses Senate Republicans of unfairness, given that he and his cohorts unfairly denied Trump due process in the House proceedings. It is also absurd, given the Republicans are open under. Back that up. It is also absurd, given that Republicans are operating under similar rules that govern the impeachment trial of President Billy Bob Clinton. Well, I don't need to go any more on that. It's just a few more paragraphs. We don't need to go on any more of that. That's basically, I agree with what this guy says wholeheartedly. It's an attempt to disgrace Trump, but from what I have been seeing, and I'm talking people at the gun shows and talking to them, linked to Canada, you lost it. Scotty was just showing me a thing on his little pocket computer there that
I'll read it if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, when it pops up here. This is from the Washington Times. It just, one of my Facebook peeps posted this, so this isn't some fly-by-night, conspiracy group. It's from the Washington Times. It says the coronavirus may have originated in lab linked to China's biowarfare program. The deadly animal-borne coronavirus spreading globally may have originated in a laboratory in the city of Wuhan linked to China's covert biological weapons program, said an Israeli biological warfare analyst. It keeps kicking me off of Facebook, so I think we're pissing people off.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, so there's, I that's all the farther I could get before I lost the link. Mm-hmm. But just like you were saying.
Well, you see, the powers that be, the people that control Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and all these other social media type communications things, they're afraid of the truth. And I don't know why they should be afraid of the truth, because what's going to happen if you get away with censoring us and telling the truth, that once the commies take over, what makes you think you will still be able to run your propaganda sheets? What makes you think? Stop and think about this before you blank us off, YouTube or Facebook or any of the other ones. What makes you think that they will allow you to continue in business so that people cannot communicate? Because you have one way communism works, and that is to keep people dumb down. If the people are not smart enough or educated enough to be able to think and reason, they can't ask questions or won't ask questions, and therefore the commies are able to stay in power. So, anyway, I'm going to take we only got 2 minutes. We're going to take a break. I won't have any music tonight because I'm having problems with the censorship on the YouTube. So we just won't do anything with it. So I'm going to take, it's now 6:58. I will take about a 5 to 7 minute break here to rest my voice. Scott, you want to turn your...
I'm gonna have to stop using my phone because it's not having a Wi-Fi signal. It just eats my battery up.
Yeah.
It's dead. I forgot.
Okay, kids, we're back. I was watching the comments. Um, Mike had a list, and we have not been able to access it with some of the stuff. Some of the stuff he knew what was copyrighted and what wasn't, and I'm not willing to blank out my programming trying to figure out what is and what's not, so that when people want to review it later in the week, they can't because it's copyright infringements.
Sure.
And but I will tell you kids out here now, you are raising holy hell somewhere, because I'm getting these messages, and it keeps coming up, being held for review and show hide. Show hide means that some of your comments are being hidden from the show. So, so just so you know,
Someone's got your panties in a bunch.
yeah, you ruffled your pink fluffy panties, ruffly panties, ruffles. Yeah, I got one here. This is kind of comical, but I like it. Probably never come to pass, but this is off of WorldNet Daily. In custody battle, man demands trial by combat with swords. I will render their souls. A Kansas City man challenged his ex-wife and her attorney to a trial by combat with Japanese samurai swords in order to settle their child custody dispute in Iowa early this month. Well, I guess that would settle it one way or another. David Ostrom, 40, claimed in court documents that his ex-wife, Bridget, 38, and her attorney have destroyed him legally. According to the New York Post, Ostrom got the idea from a 2015 case involving New York attorney Richard Lutherman, who challenged a lawyer and his client to settle a legal dispute via sword fight, Games of Thrones style. To this day, trial by combat has never been explicitly banned or restricted as a right in these United States. Ostrom stated in court filing, according to the Carroll Times Herald, he said that such a method has been used as recently as 1818 in British court. Osterman asked the Iowa District Court in Shelby County to give him 3 months to either acquire or forge a canton, and what other sword, Waskasaski sword, or whatever, Japanese name for it. And I now wish to give them the chance to meet me on the field of battle, where I will render their souls from their bodies, Orson wrote in the court filing. Orson said that he would allow his ex-wife to choose her attorney Matthew Hudson as her champion, or stand-in fighter. If they do not accept the challenge, Orson says he should automatically win the dispute. Respondents and counsel have proven themselves to be carnivorous by refusing to answer the call to battle. Thus, they should lose this motion by default. Ostrom wrote in his court filings. But if they choose to accept, I will be glad to engage them with a blunted practice sword or sword fighting. Also told the Des Moines, Iowa, the Des Moines Money's Register on Monday that the challenge stemmed from his annoyance with Hudson. I think I've met Mr. Hudson absurdity with my own absurdity, Ostrom said. Hudson filed his opposition to Ostrom's proposed mediation tactic on January 10th, arguing that since the trial by combat could end in severe death injury or death, the potential consequence would be too severe for a dispute over a child custody. Although the respondent and potential combatants do have souls to be rendered, they respectfully request the court not order this done. It should be noted that just because the U.S. and Iowa constitutions do not specifically prohibit battling over persons with a deadly canton sword, it doesn't prohibit a court setting in equity from ordering the same. Hudson asked the court order a psychological evaluation of Orstrom and suspended his visitation rights in light of the absurd request. Orstrom argued that he had no history of mental illness. However, Orstrom said that he made this outlandish request to make a point. He told KCTV in an interview that he hopes all the attention that his case will receive will open up the conversations on co-parenting. I'm not interested in physically causing harm to anyone, Orst said. He said he believes that this country's court system is biased against men in child custody cases, and he is absolutely right. If you don't get to custody your child and you're ordered to pay child support, they put you in jail if you miss your child support. And how in the hell are you going to be able to pay your child support if you're sitting in jail? Because the judges awarded too damn much money for the child support of a child, or for the support of a child. Anyway, let's see, where was I? He said, they've tried to ignore me, not address equal custody, and I think that this puts a spotlight on them, he said. I kind of run out of options and no one pays attention to what I think is hardship on myself and my children. That's because a lot of the negotiation is done by women. And the court has not yet made a decision on any of the proposed motions. Orson told the Des Moines Register. What the hell's the matter with you? That he does not expect the court will approve his motion, but it still would like a reply. Though he doesn't have any sword fighting experience, he is serious about his challenge. If Mr. Hudson is willing to do it, I will meet him. I don't think he has the guts to do it. Most lawyers don't. The Western Journal has reached out to Matthew Hudson for further comment, but did not receive a response by publication time. So,
That's crazy.
I like it.
It's wacky.
I like it. Give him 40 whacks with a canton. Canton.
Ay, caramba. You are right in regards to the whole custody being slanted towards the woman.
Yeah, it's my son's in a perfect example of that. The amount of money he makes, he has to fork over. Well, I won't say the dollars and cents, but he has to fork over a substantial payment to his ex-wife for support of his daughter, in which he has the daughter almost 50% of the time. So he shouldn't have to pay that much. He should be able to, But anyway, his ex-wife is playing the child welfare game. She got divorced from my son, immediately went out and found a boyfriend, got knocked up by him, and had his baby. They separated. Then she went back to him, got knocked up again.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so she's had two by her boyfriend, and separated from him, and she's now living in Sagertown and collecting child support from my son's and for two kids from her boyfriend. And she lost 2 kids off the child support list here a couple of years ago by her previous husband. Okay? Uh, so she's playing the system for money. Even though she's working, she's getting the child support, okay, and she's working, but she claims she can't make ends meet with the money she's getting. And when my son and her first got married, after about 3 months, she goes to him and she says, "You know, I was making more money on welfare than we are working together." Okay, that was like $38,000 a year she was making off of welfare in the Bennies before she got married.
Good grief.
Okay, then you want to know why? Things are the way they are. Why welfare is so big? Why you have so many parentless kids? Or, 2 parents, father, mother. Because the one doesn't want the responsibilities of being a true mother. She just wants the friggin' dough. Do re mi. And if the father cannot make the payments, he goes to jail. Okay? Instead of the court looking at it and saying, well, gee, maybe the payments are too high. Maybe we can lower the payments, and then he could, get within the realm of sensibility here. Because if they were married, the child would have to would only get certain amount because of the family size and that. So, yeah, it's a money-making racket that's out there, and it's money-making racket for those that are too lazy to work. And you see it with the large welfare families.
Oh yeah, there was
single women.
Well, there was this news story. It was probably, I don't know. I know it was before Trump got elected, so it was back during the Obama years. I'm just using that as a reference for time. It was a story about this woman and her 12 or 15 kids that had gotten displaced because of one reason or another, and they were living in a hotel room, and her response was, well, who's going to take care of my children? I need someplace to live. I need food for my babies. Who is going to take care of my kids? Well, shouldn't it be you?
Yeah, shouldn't it be? And that's similar to what the response was when Reagan was president and he was wanting to cut welfare. I remember the news media going through some of the welfare housing, and the lady was sitting on the porch and they were asking her about the effects this welfare cut would have on her, and she says, well, it'd have a severe cut on me because I have 9 kids by 9 different husbands and I don't know who any of them are, and they're not collecting any child support. Well, but you're getting welfare recipients making money hand over fist because you're a baby factory.
Yeah.
Okay. And so.
And then when a politician tries to bring up the whole topic of, possible, I don't want to say sterilization, but, forced birth control for, making somebody get their tubes tied, well, then you're interfering with the woman's reproductive rights.
Yeah, you're interfering with their rights. But we allow them to commit murder because they got an unwanted baby.
Yeah, but that's
interfering with women's rights.
Reproductive rights.
Yeah. So if I'm the father of your baby, of that baby, and I don't want to be held responsible for taking care of it, then I should be able to use my fatherly rights and have the baby aborted. Okay, if the woman can decide to do it, then the man should be able to decide to do it. You want equal pay for equal work. You want the same rights as men, then men has the same rights as you. That means he can demand that you have an abortion or sign away your rights to collect any child support.
Yeah, that's. I think Dave Chappelle, he's a African American comedian. He brought that up in one of his stand-ups. Just kind of like playing devil's advocate. Oh my goodness, the next day and like for the next month, he got just drug over the coals, hammered by the lefty press and the social justice look at me's and.
Just a footnote for something local here for those that are listening that probably don't get the newspaper around the area. There was a shooting up in Wendy's up in Edinburgh yesterday.
Oh yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, one person's dead. They made an arrest. I didn't get a chance to read the story to get information as to who the idiot was, but that did the shooting. But most likely it'll end up being something over drugs.
Drugs or gang related of some sort.
But remember when we were talking about the Virginia there and the FBI making a raid and arresting 3 neo-Nazis in their first arrest?
The one guy was from...
One guy happened to be here illegally from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
He was AWOL from the Canadian something force or whatever.
Some military.
Yeah, some military unit. And he was down here, and he'd been AWOL since August or something like that.
Yes, several months.
So he was down here for some reason. He was down here to cause some problems, to orchestrate some problems.
Stir some shit up.
Yeah. I will say this, not in defense of the state because of the situation they put themselves in, but the state was right to take some extra precautions because of that.
Certainly.
And that. But
We always err on the side of caution.
yeah, but the problem is they wouldn't have to worry about taking those steps if they weren't being such dickheads and trying to take people's rights away. Okay, so
much of it is it falls directly in the media's lap.
mm-hmm.
You know, just the old adage in media: if it bleeds, it leads. You know, if it's not a salacious story, and they're not going to report it. You know, how many good guy stories get overlooked every single day?
Oh yeah. How many?
And not even gun related, just good guy stories.
But since you brought that up, how many gun-related stories are out there of where people defended themselves with a firearm? Okay, over 2.5 million times a year, people use a firearm to defend themselves. And the number of crimes that are committed with a firearm don't even come to 100,000. I think it's like firearms related, all related accidents, suicides, and criminal activity account for like 30,000 cases a year. But that's what the news media focuses on. They don't focus on the 2.5 million times that a firearm is used to defend one's family or self, or even come to the aid of police and that. And I know last week I meant something, Tom Wolf says he welcomes red flag law. Well, he's a communist pecker-headed bastard, so what can you say? I can't figure out, well, I do figure it out. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and the mistake on the Lake Erie have the majority of the population in the state, and they're the ones that elected the Wolf. It's just like over in Virginia was the 3 major cities along the coast that elected Northrop. Okay.
And that's pretty much the way it went with the presidential election.
Practical Jones, I don't know what I said, but he says, you said it all, Daryl. I don't know what I said, but thank you anyway. I had a thought that I was going to.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's like in the national election, presidential election, Los Angeles, New York City, you know, these big cities with these, you know, they sway the vote just by their sheer volume.
Mm-hmm. Now I've come up with a way to redistrict for the state of Pennsylvania, and it does for the same for the federal government as far as that goes, for this election and for elections and how many representatives and shit, to avoid gerrymandering, and that is starting with the state, each county, one state representative, each county, one state senator. The districts are the county lines, one from each. That'll bust up this conglomerate of 20 or 30 coming from Philadelphia, or 10 or 15 more coming from Pittsburgh. Okay, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, now on the national level, it goes the same way. The state lines, one senator. State lines, one representative. We don't need 432. This way, the state of Montana, who has 600,000 people in it for a population, their vote will carry as much weight as the heavier populated states. You follow where I'm going with that?
I follow you.
Okay. Now, that's the easiest way to do it, and there's no fuss, no muss. You don't have to change nothing every 10 years. This is the way it's going to be. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Now, if it takes a constitutional amendment, then that's what it needs to be done. But we know it ain't going to happen, because if it's a constitutional amendment, the lawyers in Washington are not going to allow it to get through.
You talking about the state lines and whatnot reminded me of a story I saw the other day. Have you followed any of that mess in Puerto Rico that's come about?
From the earthquake?
Well, hurricane,
before
earthquake.
That, yeah, there was a combination of both.
Well, they're finding, they found several warehouses with like stockpiles of aid that just vanished, and they're just now finding it. A lot of it's gone to waste, and President Trump was hammered about him not sending aid to Puerto Rico and yada yada yada, and come to find out it was
already there.
It was there. It was just hidden, and it was never issued, and
well, that's why the
people down there are calling for the various politicians' heads involved, as they should. I mean, as they
exactly.
should.
You're starving us to keep your fat wallets and your nice fancy chicken dinners and all that, whatever you want to call it, steaks, lobsters. Okay, you're starving us, but that's the way it always works.
And if memory serves, a good portion of the politicians involved with this whole Puerto Rico mess are Democrats. Don't hold me to it, please. If I'm wrong, forgive me.
I have a comment. I have to make this comment from Jones. Oak Island mystery is getting real interesting. I'm a follower of the Curse of Oak Island.
Oh, and I don't have cable, so I haven't been able to watch any of season 7. I remember reading about that in a National Geographic when I was in grade school.
Well, they think they have located where the original Money Pit shaft is.
Oh wow!
They've located Searcher Shaft 9, which led them to Searcher Shaft 2. And the Money Pit is only supposed to be 14 feet from the Searcher Shaft 2. Plus, they have found some ungodly finds in the cove. Okay, they uncovered another wooden structure.
Even if there's no actual monetary treasure, something interesting went on there.
They have found coins. They have found pieces of jewelry.
That cross.
That's a Templar cross.
Yeah, it had. Okay. I mean,
and so then they found these chisel wedges for hammering, using chisels to hammer stone, to break stone away for tunneling and stuff. When they get dull, they have these wedges that are made out of iron, and they put them in there and they beat the new point on them, new edge on them, and then they are able to keep on going. They found a pair of them in a section of the island that hadn't been searched, by the way. Now they have found all kinds of goodies. They're starting to find all kinds of goodies in the swamp.
The swamp is interesting. Something funky has happened there.
Well, I think there's been more than one venture over a time period of Oak Island because of its isolation.
Mm-hmm.
That pirates probably buried treasure there. The Knights Templar may have smuggled some of the religious artifacts out of Jerusalem and ended up there. And I'm not surprised that there's some stuff leading to that the French may have buried. Marie Antoinette got rid of a lot of treasure and sent it there. There's stuff coming out about the French now, so they're finding all kinds of interesting things.
That's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
And thankfully the brothers, I forget their name escaped me now, but they're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
They're following, scientific method. They're applying for all the proper permits, which really hampers a lot.
They own a lot of the island, but they have to get the damn permits to operate your.
Yeah.
Welcome to a communist nation.
Oh yeah, oh Canada, oh Canada.
Yeah, the Templars have the timeline to have been there. Yes, they do, because they were being. Once they did their job over in the Middle East, they became a pretty powerful military force.
And a banking.
And a banking system. And Lagina is the family brand.
There you go.
Our kids are right on. That's what I like about our Chet kids. They're right on. If we don't know, they got it. But well, yeah. There's the Roman plum spear that was found there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I don't know how. I don't know why this is getting so interesting. But boy, the kids are full of it.
My son gets so frustrated with the younger brother with the beard, or maybe the brother with the beard, because he dyes his hair, but his goatee is like so gray. My son's 15. He's like, Dad, why can't he dye everything, or just let it go gray? That's so stupid.
Yeah,
he gets so mad.
What you got to do is you got to stick up for him. The gray has not reached that. It starts at the bottom and works its way up.
I tried. He's like, hey, I don't care. It's just so dumb. He just live it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's all kinds of things that point that there were several different happenings on that island, and but the swamp has got. There's a section there what they call the eye in the swamp. For some reason, the underbrush doesn't grow over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were doing that seismic test with the explosive charges last season, they found an outlaying of what looked like a ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found a stone pier.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, something that they didn't mention and I thought of, and I'm surprised it's probably just a plain oversight, but ships back then carried rocks for ballast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if they were to take that ship and sink it and capsize it over on the side, then the rocks on both sides would be ended up on one side, and it would give you sort of an outline of the ship.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So I don't know if they still use rocks for ballast in ships today, or if they use water for ballast. I don't know.
I don't know anything about that Navy stuff.
Yeah, and that. But well, I know the ships from World War II, at least U.S. ships. They had ballast tanks that you could flood. If you got hit and you were listing, and you're trying to save the ship, so you bring the hull back up to where there had the heavy water pressure, you could shift the water to the other ballast tank and fill that up and roll the rupture up out of the water.
I got
to where you patch it.
Certainly.
Okay, but that only worked if it wasn't too deep down in. Yeah. But then also you could, with all the watertight doors, if you get them closed fast enough, you could use the ballast to balance the ship out to keep it on the surface.
At least get it to port.
To get it to port, or get a tow to tow it to port.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always happen, because if they hit you in the magazine, that makes
Poof.
a big hole.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's the same way with submarines. They use water. They use compressed air to blow it in, and they blow it out to let the water in for when they want to go down. And I don't think they've changed that method, just the type of power that they use. Instead of diesel, they use nuclear power now. And which saves them, which allows them to stay underwater longer, because they don't have to come up and charge their batteries.
Oh yeah.
When they're under, like the old diesel boats.
Something I found out about the time I was in the military. I might even have found it out from you, but they always show on all the different Navy commercials and movies, you know, like when a submarine it comes launching up out of the water, and I guess in my inexperienced mind, that's what submarines did all the time. From what I learned many years ago.
That's an emergency blow.
Super emergency. That's, you only do that if basically your butthole's on fire.
Yeah, you sprung a leak, or your reactor is leaking.
You got to get up top.
You got to get up top quick. Yeah.
But I was just under the mindset, like that was like something you do it every day. Woo-hee.
No, that's you go up and come down hard. I mean, that bounces you around pretty good.
It shakes quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So. That's when you see those films, they were catching an emergency blow. Doesn't mean that in the sea trials before they get fully commissioned, that they aren't doing an emergency blow.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure everything's going to work the way it's supposed to.
Certainly.
Take it. But that's most likely where they got the film of that.
Oh, yeah. And it's exciting, and
Yeah, well, it is. And good propaganda. Just how powerful this submarine is. It can come out of the water and almost fly.
Just like when, all they ever show in the Army commercials is the special operations guy walking through the swamps with the camo. They never show you sitting in the motor pool for 8 hours a day pushing a broom.
Yeah.
No one's gonna, but that's realism.
Yeah.
Mopping and buffing for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Folding and refolding your socks for hours.
I remember when I was being discharged from my knee, they had a holding barracks fairly close to main side. Of course, main side is reference to the main part of the base where all the schools were, and technical schools and shops and all that kind of stuff were. They were separated from the boot camp, but we had a holding barracks close to the main side sick bay, okay? Because those that were getting medical discharges were kept there so that they could be, checked on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day the supposed commander come in and he says, "You see them floors? They're all dark brown." Okay, I mean just absolutely dark brown. 50 years of caked on wax. Okay, he says this is what they're supposed to look like. So he says, here's several buckets of soap, here's several hard scrub brushes, and here's a ton of steel wool.
Get to scrubbing.
Get to scrubbing. And I couldn't get down and scrub because of my knee, so I was in charge of the tool rooms, and I was supposed to organize that. So I had it all nice and organized and kept it that way while I was there, but the guys got down there and they scrubbed that floor until it was the same color as the tile that was supposed to have been there. You wouldn't believe the difference day and night.
I believe it.
Yeah, that, so.
We were taught a trick in basic training when we wanted to. Every Sunday we had to take all of our bunks, flip them up, and everything had to be stripped and mopped and buffed. Mm-hmm. We had those,
power heads, yeah.
The buffer, but yeah. You had two different types of pads you put on them. Mm-hmm. There was the brush, and then there was one that was, I think, one was red and one was green. And the green you use for the actual buffing of the wax, but the red one is we would get the whole floor or the section soaking wet with a mop it clean. Then we would sprinkle when it was still damp. That's the what's that gritty soap powder? Comet.
Comet, yeah.
The generic Comet, and just buff that. That just took it. But that's a pain in the ass to mop up.
Oh yeah, because that grit just doesn't want to come up.
So a lot of times you had to sweep and sweep and sweep and then mop and then sweep. But I can put a gloss on a floor like nothing's doing. I'm
Yeah,
sure they don't.
I'm hoping I live long enough to see Oak Island when they finally find what's down in there and then inventory what's in there.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
there's a lot of stuff coming up in the next few shows for this season.
I don't have cable. I can't watch it. It's driving me
Yeah.
crazy.
You don't get it? You on satellite? No, you don't have either one.
No.
Okay.
We have the Netflix where I can watch. They have everything up to and including season 6. They stopped with season 7. If I wanted to buy that program, it's like $50 or $100 for the
Well,
season or something.
it's interesting, but I don't know if I'd want to buy
No,
it.
it's not that interesting. I'll wait till it comes out.
Wait till it comes out in the movie.
Yeah. They did. What would they find? They found those pieces of bone.
Yeah.
Did they DNA tested them?
Yeah.
Two
One's
different,
from the Middle East and one's European.
and that goes along with the whole Templar connection.
Yeah. And that's all. Well, we got 19 minutes.
I could read this story about Lieutenant Colonel Vindman.
Well, go right ahead. Read that about him.
I'd forgotten all about him, but
I had to until I saw that.
all right. This is also by Newsmax, and it's written by Eric Mack. It's titled "Lieutenant Colonel Vindman Facing Calls to be Court-Martialed." Okay. Despite U.S. whistleblower protections and warnings against reprisals, a former Trump and Bush administration advisor believes Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman must be court-martialed for speaking out against the president and violating his chain of command. Christian Witten tweeted Saturday, "To protect the military from being seen as political, Vindman must be court-martialed for speaking contemptuously of the president and violating the chain of command. The law isn't optional just because an officer hates his commander-in-chief." Witten is not the first one to call for Vindman answering to his violation of chain of command when he facilitated the whistleblower's complaint against President Donald Trump and subsequently testifying against the president in the House impeachment inquiry. The Federalist co-founder Sean Davis tweeted in November, "Vindman was insubordinate, ignored chain of command, leaked and lied to Congress about not knowing who the whistleblower is when he clearly knows because he was the whistleblower's primary source. He deserves to be court-martialed under the UCMJ," which, if you don't know, that's Uniform Code of Military Justice. Even one of the Senate jurors took to Twitter this week to call out Vindman as a political activist, citing his commanding officer, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee, Republican from Tennessee, tweeted, "Vindman's commanding officer, Army Lieutenant Colonel Jim Hickman, do not let the uniform fool you. He is a political activist in uniform." Blackburn then spoke out against Vindman to Fox News, the Ingraham angle. And is quoted as saying, "You look at what his commanders, Vindman's commanders, have said, and he has a problem with judgment." Blackburn told host Laura Ingraham this week. That had been pointed out. He had one commander that said he is a political activist in uniform. He has had problems with going outside of his chain of command, which is exactly what he did here. And I talk to a lot of military members on a regular basis. They have a real problem with some of the things and the manner in which he conducted himself in this matter. It's true. I mean, freedom isn't free. And when you're in uniform, you don't have the same... You have the same rights, but you have greater responsibilities to the chain of command.
But you swear an oath that the average person doesn't swear.
Exactly.
And you swear an oath to obey the orders of the person above you, unless, of course, now you deem it immoral or unjust.
Oh, certainly.
Okay, but he violated that oath. He didn't go to a superior to make the complaint. Okay, he went to whoever outside the chain of command, and so therefore he has violated the chain of command and the oath he took.
If he felt that strongly about what he testified about, he should have stepped down from his command. He should have retired from the military and then came out, and then all would have been well.
Yeah.
But when you do
Do it
that,
while you're under uniform.
when you're in uniform, it's not the same. And people who have never raised their hand, who haven't put on the uniform don't understand that. They well, he has rights. Well, yeah, he does have rights, but he also has responsibilities that the average person doesn't.
Jones just typed in here, it's illegal to be an activist or political while in uniform.
Yep.
Okay, so he broke military code of conduct. Okay, so he should be tried. He should be court-martialed. And he should be stripped of his rank, loss of his pension, and given 40 lashes with a wet noodle.
I remember an incident in my unit when I was stationed over in Germany. One of the privates, he was a firebrand. He's a good friend, but we had a lot of NCOs that were holding some people responsible and some not, and there was a firestorm. So this young PFC put together a petition, and when the commander found out about it, he pulled him aside. In this PFC, he didn't realize that he wasn't allowed to do that. He had a couple of people sign it, and then he ended up, he threw it away, and the commander explained, he's like, you can't do that. And he pulled up UCMJ codes, and he's like, if you want to persist with this, we can go this route. But he ended up just shutting his mouth and going back to work,
We had an incident in boot camp. It happened to one of the guys in our company. In the military, we had watches.
Fire guard!
Yeah.
God almighty!
Fire watch, okay? You had a guy at each end of the building whose job was to stand guard and wake anybody or wake everybody if they smelled smoke so they could evacuate, because we were in old wooden buildings that were built for World War II.
Oh, sure.
Okay? And we had just received instructions from our commanding officer, and he says, when you're standing guard and we give you a rifle to stand guard with, which you do, okay, you stand with a rifle, you don't stand with a handgun, you stand with a rifle. Only the officer of the day, junior officer of the day, carried the handgun, okay, which was an old beat-up 45, which is just my liking.
Yeah, perfect for you.
Yeah, so he says, now when you're standing guard, he says, you do not relinquish your weapon to anybody unless they give you a direct order. Okay? He said, I don't care if it's Admiral Halsey that comes up here, if he doesn't give you a direct order to give him your weapon, you don't relinquish it. Well, we had an ensign, just fresh out of school, come up. He had no business going through our barracks, but he came up.
Would that have been like a military, like an army lieutenant? An ensign?
Probably down like a second lieutenant.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with Navy.
Yeah.
Pardon my interruption.
Yeah. But anyway, he come up. He had no business being there because that was not his duty. But he was waiting on assignment, so he was up at the Great Lakes wasting time. So he must have got bored. So he thought he'd go throw his weight around with a bunch of recruits, right? So he comes up to the guy that's standing outside the door there, and he says, let me see that rifle, son, and they wouldn't give it to him. I said, let me see that rifle. And he still wouldn't give it to him. So he reached out and grabbed it from him and started to walk away with it. Well, by that time I heard the ruckus. I come out to see what was going on, and I saw the sentry reach out, grab him by the shoulder, and spin him around and take his rifle back, and
Oh boy.
never gave a word direct order. This is a direct order. Give me your rifle. Okay. It was not a direct order. They were going to crucify that recruit. They were going to put him in Brigham, the whole nine, until they found out that the ensign did not give him a direct order to relinquish that weapon. And So,
A lot of times it's just the right words you have to use. I was never, when I was in spring of 1989, for our fire guard, we had flashlights. Didn't have weapons. There was only one of us up per bay.
well, see, I only stood watch when it was my turn to be junior officer. Okay, I was in charge of all the watches on all the barracks in the building.
Yeah.
Okay, there was like 8 barracks in the building. No, 16. So I was in charge of 32 sentries. And my job was to go floor to floor every couple hours through each one of the barracks, make sure everything was all kosher. And I remember reporting. I just got out of the shower when I was told that I had guard duty. And I said, well, when did they put that up? They said, they just put it up 5 minutes ago when I was in the shower.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I just washed my leggings, because you had to wash your leggings every day, and they were white. And they had to be white. Okay, and we ran around with a lot of muddy shit, so you spent time. So I just washed my leggings, so you could get away with it if you put a clothes stop around your sock. Put your pant legs in the sock and then tie the clothesline on the sock. Well, since I was supposed to be there and I was already 5 minutes late for the duty that I just found out about, I ran in there. I had the clothes stops in my pocket. I hadn't had time to put them on there. And the commander, who happened to be my commander at the time, he says, "Where's your clothes stops?" Or he says, "Where's your leggings?" I said, "Sir," I said, "nobody told me I had duty. They just posted that we had duty." He said, "Yeah, I know, we just posted it. I just found out about it myself." So he said, I said, "My leggings are washed, wet, drying." And he said, "Well, where's your clothes stop?" Well, unauthorized clothes stops in the pocket, huh?
Oh.
And he chuckled and he handed me my belt, pistol belt with a 45 in it. He had the magazine. Damn it.
Damn it.
Damn it. I was itching for something to happen because I wanted to shoot it. They wouldn't let me
No,
shoot
no
it.
shooting it.
No, they wouldn't let me shoot it.
I was only ever issued a pistol once, and I was on, I don't even know why they still did this at the time, but once, every Friday they set up a lieutenant with a big money box at the PX so soldiers can come and cash a check. And the lieutenant had an enlisted person as their assistant. Had to show up in super shiny boots and your pistol belt. You had to strip all your gear off your LCE just to have a pistol belt, and you're issued the. But yeah, I wasn't even allowed to put the magazine in the weapon.
Yeah, no, we weren't allowed to have the pistol magazine at all. It was loaded, but the company commander had it. So if I was at the other end of the building and I needed it, I'd have to send somebody, a runner, down to the office and have them come up and command post, not the office, command post, and have him bring it up. So just reminiscing of the fun times you had. I remember we were in what's called the peacetime Navy, even though the war was going on in Vietnam. We only had 80 guys in our company, when in wartime they have 160 guys in there. So we had another 80 bunks that weren't being used. Okay, no mattress on, just bunks with the springs. Well, in your off duty, you were allowed to sit on your bunk, but you weren't allowed to lay on your bunk during your off duty time. Okay, but you were allowed to sleep on the bunks with no mattresses if you can stand the torture of those springs. You're probably pretty similar to what you had.
I'm probably
Same thing.
Probably the same ones.
Yeah, I got them coil springs on the end that sometimes pop out.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had this one black guy in our company who was always unauthorized sleeping, UA sleeping. And one day we went over and we got some clothes stops and we tied his feet down. And he was laying on his side with his palm of his hand open. And we got shaving cream and filled his
Oh, jeez.
hand with shaving cream, and we hollered, "Attention on deck," and you should have seen him trying to get up. He just got shaving cream all over the place.
Oh, that was rude. In our basing training, there was 4 platoons to a company, and each platoon had their own room. There was 50. Started out with 56 guys per platoon. 14. This wall, 14 bunks, and then in the middle of the room they had wall lockers making like a little wall, and 14 bunks, 14 bunks, 14 bunks. That was roster number 114.
Yeah, we didn't have separate dividers. We didn't have dividers. There was one big room.
Well, it was one big room, but the wall lockers were
Yeah.
a pseudo wall.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
worked as a divider. Ours went right down the middle. All the lockers went right down the right down the
Whittle.
right down the middle, and then all the bunks were lined up in 2 rows on each side of it. 2 rows? Yeah, 2 rows on each side of it.
We didn't have bunk beds in ours. We just
Yeah,
had
oh, the triple bunk.
triple bunks.
Triple bunk.
Ours were single.
And let me tell you something, when you got that bicycling shot and you were in the top bunk, and you went to get down the next morning, hello, Dolly.
Cramped you up pretty good?
Oh, it hurt like a son of a... Well, when they gave it to you, I don't know if they still do it this way now or not, but when they gave it to us, you went in line, you dropped your drawers, and had one corpsman swab it and stick you. Then you had to take 2 steps to the next corpsman, who squeezed it in. Okay, then you had to take 2 more steps to the next corpsman, who took it out and wiped it off.
That's just asinine.
Okay.
Or
Well,
fun.
it is, but see, that works the thing around inside here. That's what gives you that grapefruit feeling.
Oh, yeah.
It's called bicycle, and I don't know what all was in there, but if I never have one again, it's too soon. But, and I remember we were getting inoculated, going through to have a bunch of other inoculations. They only did the bicycle by itself. Then a couple days later, you went in and got the rest of your inoculations, something like 26, 27 of them. And they were using the air gun and go.
I don't think they use those anymore, but they still they did when I was there.
Well, if they missed, because the pressure blows
Tear
it
you
in,
up.
it'll cut you. But I come out of there, I had 28 blood streams running down my arms because each one of them was bleeding. The company commander saw that and he says, "God damn assholes got it set too powerful." So he went in, but they gave me so many of them. I was standing in line in the sun, and the next thing I know, 2 guys were helping me over to the step.
Yeah,
And I
they
started
make you
to go
real
down.
queasy.
Yeah, the bigger guys are the ones that seem to have the most problem with that, though. I mean, there was a few little ones, the smaller guys, but the big guys are the ones that seem to have the most problem. So, but I mean, I wouldn't trade the experience for nothing. I mean, I had fun. Of course, I was a company petty, or squad leader, not a company petty officer, a squad leader. I had 10 guys in my squad. And, so that made it,
A little better.
yeah.
I reckon it's about time to wrap this up.
Oh, I guess so. How do we do that? You talk too much.
I talk too much.
We're reminiscing too much. Well, kids, on that note, I will see you next week, even though next week is Super Bowl Sunday, I believe. Mr. T called me this afternoon. He had an accident. He damaged his shoulder, and he was going to the emergency room this afternoon, so I will be calling him when I get home to find out just what exactly he did. He's having a rough run of luck.
Yeah, he is.
And that, so, but I will be here next week. Will you be here next week?
I will do my very best. I'll let you know otherwise.
Yeah, Scotty will let me know otherwise if he's not going to make it, and I'm not going to count on the bludgeoner because he's got to move next weekend, plus he's got to do security at my gun show. So anyway, I will be at Chapmanville, and any of those of you out there that can see fit to help me out with my taxes, it is beginning to get to me. Any donation would be appreciated, and I will tell you, anything that comes in will go directly to the taxes that I add to what I have saved up. I still need to save at least another $2,000. So, yeah, thank you, Emmy, for the good luck with your gun show. Like I say, it'll be a big boost because I'm one of the ones that's putting it on, so I get to split the gate. And if I have a good attendance, I'll get a good boost in my property payment ability to pay my tax. But it won't be enough to pay the whole thing. But I have about 7 more gun shows to be able to raise the balance, and that's if the sales continue to go.
There you go.
And that. So, like I said, anything would be helpful. Okay. Well, guys, I put my address out there. You can go back and look and see what's going on. And we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.